Well, here's something you didn't expect to see. Pat Robertson saying something I agree with. What? I know. There's a lot of twists and turns in this story. It gets very interesting, and I'm going to break it down. So now, recently in the 700 Club, Pat Robertson talked about police shooting black people. Oh no, you immediately think, what is Pat Robertson going to say? Well, first, in this discussion with his co-host, he is going to demonstrate the difference between a police handgun and a taser. Take a look.
They don't even make tasers any longer black. This is a taser. Now, Terry, I know cross and all that rest of it, but can you feel this one and then feel this one and tell me you couldn't tell the difference?
This is lighter.
Of course it's lighter. We don't have the battery in that, because if we did, we...
Also, I'm going to say, I think a lot of people are thinking, like I was, that both the gun and the taser would be put on your dominant side, but it's not that way.
They have to cross where they have them on different.
So you actually have to reach across yourself to get
feel
the
difference. I mean,
it's definitely
there's just no comparison. As I say, they're not making tasers in this yellow color anymore. They're making in black. They're making them yellow. Now, how she made the difference was she shot that poor guy to death, saying, "This is what I thought. I thought was my taser." And if you can't tell the difference in the feel of those things, it's crazy.
Well, then, that's interesting. Color me intrigued. Yes, look, what he did there was just point out the obvious. In the case of Dante Wright, that officer said, I couldn't tell the difference between my gun and a taser. And he's like, well, you should be able to. Look at how yellow this taser is. How do you not know? And if you watch the video, you can see the fact that she had her gun right in front of him, had aimed for several seconds, and should have been able to tell the difference. Interesting. Now, I do agree. She should have been able to tell the difference. Now, he gets into it a little bit more about the police. He actually kind of takes the boot out of his mouth, so to speak, to criticize the police. Interesting.
I am pro-police, folks. I think we need the police. We need their servants, and they do a good job. But if they don't stop this onslaught, they cannot do this. The police in Virginia picked up a lieutenant in the Army and began to give him trouble. And our state police are highly trained. But why they don't stop this? And this thing is going on in Minnesota, but the Derek Chauvin, I mean, they ought to put him under the jail. He has caused so much trouble by kneeling on the death of George Floyd. It's just, on his neck. It's just terrible what's happening. And the police, why don't they open their eyes to what the public relations are? They've got to stop this stuff.
Well, then, okay. How is it that this ancient fossil is one of the only conservatives to have actually seen the situation for what it is? That it's a horrible situation. These police officers should not be executing people during traffic stops. And he actually agreed that Derek Chauvin did murder George Floyd. I mean, again, we could see it. It's clear as day that the knee on the neck was the thing that killed George Floyd. And this seems to be a pretty big problem with police in general, harassing black men, killing them in many circumstances. And so Pat Robertson is actually correct when he points out that this is quite terrible. And understand that, I'm surprised because I've covered Pat Robertson for years, and yet every once in a while he does tend to surprise me. Very strange. Now, unfortunately, of course, it's Pat Robertson, so doesn't exactly last because where he sees a problem, he does see the problem. He cannot help but put the boot back into his mouth.
Maybe they need more training. consistent training. I don't mean
think
training.
The problem
to
is
things, but
you've got to pay them more. We don't have the finest in the police department. They're low-paid people, Terry. They don't get adequate. It's not a question of training. It's a question of hiring a more superior workforce, and we aren't doing it. But we need police. We need them, and we need to honor them, and I'm all for it. But at the same time, we cannot have a bunch of clowns running around who are underpaid and who really are not the best and brightest. We've got to have the best in there. Ephraim?
Oh, cringe. Oh, you was so... Oh, you're so close. I had hopes. I had hopes. Which is ironic. He is calling cops dumb and underpaid, and saying that they're clowns. But at the same time, it's like, oh, I love the police so much, even though they're underpaid, dumb clowns. Yeah. Okay, all right. So now, if you're wondering how much police do on average make, it's not a small amount. They actually make, on average, about $67,000 per year. Broken down, that's about $33 an hour. So that's a pretty good middle class life, being a police officer, especially since it takes no college, no real special training, or certifications or anything like that to become a police officer. You have to go through a short training course once you get a police officer, and then you're out on the street. So now, if you compare that to the average median wage of an American worker, which is about $43,000 per year. Now, of course, there are differences in how much people get paid as a police officer in the different geographical regions. For example, police officers serving places like New York will generally get paid a lot more, somewhere up to $100,000 per year. But what I'm saying is that the whole point is, for an unskilled job as being a police officer, you actually get paid pretty good. So they're not exactly poor. And so the whole point of, well, we need to pump more money into the police departments. No, we do not. Look at the NYPD. Their budget is over $6 billion a year. And guess what they're using it on? They're buying robotic police dogs. Sorry. I'm not going to agree with that one. All right. And as far as the training goes, the problem with this is that it's not an issue with training. Okay. If you put more money into the already bloated police departments that are super militarized, and then do more training and fund more training, that's not going to fix the problem. You know why? Because police right now are doing exactly what they're trained to do. The problem is not the training of the police. The problem is the police. We have turned cops into an over-militarized hammer. And guess who are the nails? Black males in this country. And you know what happens when a hammer meets a nail? What we need to do is we actually need to defund the police. I know it's a super unpopular position, unless you actually understand what it really means. What we need to do is to take the funding from these over-militarized police departments that have, in the case of a small, I think it was an Illinois town, although I can't remember the state, a small town of a few thousand people, the police department has an MRAP, which is basically a militarized vehicle used to smash walls. Why do you need stuff like that? That's an example of how it's over-militarized and overfunded. We do not need those situations. What we need is to take the money, divest it from these police forces, not take all the funding, but take some of this funding and put it towards community services, put it towards education, put it towards reinvestment in the community. Okay. So also put it towards health professionals, mental health professionals. Cops shouldn't be sent for wellness checks. Okay. You know who should go for wellness checks? Social workers. Okay. No more police dealing with mentally ill people. Okay. You know what? That would go a long way towards not killing innocent people. Now, as far as the Black community, if you want to hit crime in those areas, well, then target what causes crime. Solve the things that create it. And generally, you're looking at socioeconomic issues in nature. That's really the issue with a lot of Black communities is desperation and lack of opportunity and lack of investment in these areas. You've got to end that. You've got to end things like the drug war. You've got to put a stop to these crimes of desperation by being able to create opportunity for young Black men to make good money. Because right now, it is true that, crime in some of these areas, selling drugs, for example, because of the drug war, is more lucrative than working a 9-to-5 job at $7.25 an hour. Sorry. We need to solve that crisis. We need to present better opportunities for people to take care of their families so they're not forced to turn to crime. And that's the situation that we have right now. We need to invest in these communities. We need to invest in these areas instead of bringing more police in to crack heads. So we need some serious changes to these situations. Okay. And now back to Robertson here. Robertson sees some of these problems correctly, and at least who appears to have some more empathy than other conservatives who are right now blaming them for their own deaths, blaming TV for the deaths of Black men, or cheering on the deaths of Black men. But unfortunately, like every conservative, doubles down on the wrong solutions to these issues. And of course, the obligatory sucking of police boot. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.